Hello everyone, welcome to the Halestorm episode proper. We will start with the band's 2009 debut album, Halestorm. Released through Atlantic Records and produced by Howard Benson, who also would provide keyboard work, the album is a damn good start in my opinion. For one thing, Benson also helped a lot with the songwriting, only being absent from the tracks Better Sorry Than Safe and Dirty Work. But the main songwriter here was lead vocalist Lizzie Hale, and while she didn't go unassisted for any of the album's songs, she did some good work here, apart from the opening track, It's Not You. It does show off the band style really well, that style being brash, very in your face, and a bit sexy sometimes. Ooh. However, that is also a criticism that Lizzie has gotten before with her style of lyrics, but since she's so open about it, I don't really see it as a haphazard form of feminism, but rather an expression of something that most of the female vocalists refuse to sing about. It makes it feel more honest that way, and the fact that the other songwriters let her take that route speaks volumes of their faith in her. This album is kind of a unique situation for me too, as this was the only Halestorm album that I hadn't heard before writing for this episode, so it's nice to see that that style was always sort of there. Of course, the album was successful for more reasons than just that, with a live DVD following and the song I Get Off being a huge hit for the album. And it wouldn't be a good hit if the band didn't know what they were doing. Lizzie's vocals are brilliant and she has that old school rock front woman swagger that you don't really see too often nowadays. The instrumental work is good too, the guitars especially, and the lyrics that mostly deal with sex, love, and heartbreak and betrayal are good staples to use for the style. My favourite song goes to What Were You Expecting? Hailstorm, Storm, ha 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 ha. Out of the gate early with confidence in their stride and with one of the best producers in the business standing behind them, it's a very good start for them. We then reach the band's second album, The Strange Case of, with an ellipses at the end because they just had to be awkward about it. Released in 2012 through the same label and with the same producer, this does also have my first Halestorm song in I Miss the Misery, and it's also the only Halestorm album to have a guest spot. Sort of. The closing track, Here's to Us, has a version released in 2013 with several guests, and to save time, I'll just say the names of the singers and not the bands. You can research those bands for yourself. So, Maria Brink, Brent Smith, Miles Kennedy, Tyler Connolly, James Michael, David Draymond, and Wolfgang Van Halen, son of legendary Eddie Van Halen. But how about we talk about the first actual song proper on the album? Love Bites, in brackets So Do I, is the leading song as well as the album's lead single, and it's a short but furious hard rock track showing the band's heaviest side instantly. Even if it does fall into Halestorm's trap of shorter song being about sex and longer song being more emotional, it is a good trap to fall into. I like that there's a good balance of ballady stuff and the band jamming and having fun on the short stuff too. In some places I feel it shows a deeper side to the band that they didn't really get to fully express on their debut. Their promotion for it was good too. They toured obviously, but they also released the Hello It's Ms. Hyde EP, with Ms. having a Z instead of an S, shortly before the album came out, doing a damn good job of keeping their fans happy. Lyrically, there's not a lot of changes, but there is more of an emotional balance to the tone with messages of lost love and loneliness, and the band maintained the momentum that was on their debut, adding some new stuff to that as well. The structuring feels a bit disjointed on occasion, but the band make up for it with their passion, and it's nice to hear them having fun. My favourite song goes to I Miss the Misery. The band know what they're good at, they stick to it as they did with their first album, and it works out pretty damn well for them here, so, pretty good follow-up. Next up is the band's third offering, Into the Wildlife. Released in 2015, it would keep the label, but we get a different producer in Jay Joyce. The album is also the band's highest charting one in the US at least, landing at number 5 in the Billboard 200. One thing that I like about the album is that although the songs were again written by Hale, with guitarist Joe Hottinger penning a fair chunk alongside her, and they even got other producers and songwriters in on the action. That leads to a slightly different style for the band, which we'll get in the intro song Scream, and that style is a more mature tone. And with tons more people on deck to help, it does lend itself to the stylistic change that doesn't change up much through the rest of the album. But man, the production on this one is really overbearing. Don't get me wrong, the band sound great, Lizzie's vocals sound great, as do the rest of the band, but when I listen to a Halestorm album, I don't want to listen to them forcing themselves to have fun singing about stuff that they couldn't give less of a raspberry flavoured turd about. The label were really adamant on making this feel as mainstream as possible, which in itself isn't usually a bad thing. It's worse that a lot of people turned on the band after this album came out, but it wasn't really down to them. It's one of those bad cases, or rather a strange case, of too many cooks adding too much wine to the rum cake. The lyrics are only insipid because the outside songwriters just didn't want the band to have fun, to which Halestorm said, fuck that, let's play our asses off. If this album were a more raw offering, it would be better, and again, it's not the band's fault. It's just such a bad case of outside interference, and I just straight don't like it when that happens, especially when it happens a lot to bands like Halestorm. Regardless, my favourite track goes to the song Amen. For an album to have so much that was supposed to go a lot better just go bad is nothing new, but the band do their best to persevere through the vapidity and try to salvage what they can, even if it doesn't always work. And at last we reach the band's fourth album, Vicious. Released in 2018, we get a new producer for this one in Nick Raskulinecz, I hope I'm saying that correctly, But unlike with the last guy, Nick actually knows what he's doing, as do the band this time around, which should come as no surprise. I was worried that the band were going to repeat their previous effort, but thankfully that isn't the case, or rather, the strange case. That is such a bad running joke, but it's staying here. The band were actually allowed to flex their muscles a bit more for this one too, which I like. Bizarrely, this album is lower charting than Into the Wildlife, but it's also higher scoring on Metacritic, which is weird to me, but hey, either way, I think the album rocks. This is a not so strange case of me feeling like the band wanted to try this last time, but they didn't really get the chance to. This time around, though, there's a lot less outside interference, and that gives the band more control, as is evident from the album opener, Black Vultures. The album has a more positive lean to it, and while it does sometimes go over the band's usual stuff, it adds a different layer to it. It even feels like a new Halestorm, which I think was the goal, in which case, or rather strange case, mission accomplished. The album has a great pacing to it, and it still maintains the band's signature sense of fun, and it's got their style all over it. That would usually point to a bad sense of tone, but it actually works quite well here. They do take themselves more seriously as well, and they make it work. Also, damn do they get the chance to shred on this one. They go hard on their instruments, adding furious pace to the album's bones. The production has come leaps and bounds as well, matching the rest of the album's style almost perfectly. And if you ask me, this is a great recovery after an album that was a bit of a damp squib, let's be honest. My favourite song goes to Killing Ourselves to Live. Joyful name. More serious lyrics, better production, and a sense of freedom and identity are just a few reasons why this album kills it. Oh, and the band obviously sound fantastic as well. How could they not? So, that will about close it off. I will see you in the next Backtracking episode where I'll be covering Alice, Massachusetts' own Tijuana Sweetheart. I'll most likely see you tomorrow for the next Fight the Night review, and for PBW not long after that. But next band I'm going to be covering is Tijuana Sweetheart. So, as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.